The police are killing people, and we don't know why. Since 2015, 8,335 people have been killed by the police, a rate which is nearly 3 times higher per capita than any other nation. I wanted to know in my research why. Why was this happening? Why were the police killing so many people? And what could we possibly do to stop it? Anyone investigating this question will be confronted with a slew of popular writings and public discussion which seem to saturate the topic of policing. Police brutality, excessive force, racial prejudice, we all know these terms. They are our policing vocabulary. But I was surprised in my research to find that these terms, along with their corresponding arguments, didn't seem to fit what I observed. As I researched, a certain framework began to emerge. This is a framework which I believe squares much better with the underlying truth of the matter. I came to the following conclusions. Firstly, the way police operate in interactions with the public tends to severely undermine officer legitimacy. And civilians are far more likely to comply when they perceive that an officer is legitimate. And I also, secondly, found that when civilians are non-compliant, their non-compliance acts as a trigger event, jolting interactions with the police into high-stress states, where these officers, often well-meaning, kill innocent civilians. I must now backtrack slightly. How did I come to these conclusions? My first clue came as a complete surprise to me. When investigating these civilians, case by case, I found that the vast majority of deaths occurred in cases of reasonable force, not excessive force. And I found that among those killed, Black individuals were not represented disproportionately. This forced me to look for explanations beyond racial prejudice or police brutality. In looking elsewhere, I stumbled upon a common thread that runs through nearly every case of reasonable force death: a civilian not complying with the police. Rarely did these deaths not include some event of non-compliance. It became clear that non-compliance might be causing these interactions to turn violent. This led me to ask why. Why do civilians not comply? Fortunately, I found an entire field of research pertaining to this question. Frank Michelman, widely considered the authority on compliance theory, writes that, quote, legitimacy is the feature of legal systems that makes them worthy of respect, so that people accept the use of coercion to enforce laws. Legitimacy drives compliance. I also found within this field a multitude of studies further establishing this concrete link between compliance and legitimacy. In short, I found that the non-compliance events I observed were driven perhaps by a lack of police legitimacy. My question then became, how is it that police are undermining their legitimacy? Tom R. Tyler, a Yale professor and leading legitimacy scholar, concluded that, quote, legitimacy is both built and destroyed through the way in which civilians interact with police. But crucially, it seemed to me in my research that the police were adopting a general approach interacting with the public which radically undermined their legitimacy. I will call this general approach, in the words of journalist Radley Balko, police militarism. Police militarism, understood simply, refers to a tendency among police to see themselves as a unit at war with the general population. When adopted, this causes officers to assume an extreme level of hypervigilance and general aggression. These are attitudes which are fundamentally incompatible with the community relationship building known to foster legitimacy. This is my final conclusion. What perhaps lays at the heart of these tragic deaths is a police system fatally lacking in legitimacy. Community-oriented policing methodology, though mostly untested and perhaps limited in its effectiveness, attempts to address many of these problems by improving police respect-worthiness through practices such as frequent foot patrols, beat officers, as well as constant dialogue between officers and citizens. Philosophically speaking, substantial change in the police might require a radical shift in the classical liberalism which leads officers to fixate on individual rights whilst neglecting the demands of community and the pursuit of collective flourishing. Biblically, the model of Christ-like servanthood can serve as a kind of blueprint for how we can think about the role of police as both servants and authorities. All that being said, the truth of the matter is this: we don't truly understand how to restore officer legitimacy. And so this must be our mission. Thank you.